Well, hey, welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. I am honored to welcome Sam Yang to the channel. Sam, what's going on, my friend?
Not much. I just woke up. It's 12:30 over here. Had a shower. Yeah, thank you for having me on. This is so nice.
Hey, I am honored. Your artwork has stood out to me since the very first time I started playing Flesh and Blood. And actually, with Dan Henry, had some conversations, and we back when I first started, we just loved your artwork, and we started chatting about it. So Dan actually connected us, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So you're in New Zealand, I understand.
Yeah, Auckland, New Zealand.
So what time is it right now in Auckland?
12:32 to be exact.
And you said you just got up. So
yes,
and that's on Sunday.
12:32
p.m. Because right now it's Saturday night at 8:32 p.m. But this video is going to go live around 11, and so on Sunday it'll be like they're here with us in real life at the time. I might even post it right at 12:32. So that when they go live, it's like you're here with them chatting. That's amazing that you're still in, like, we're good. Like 16 hours later, the world's still spinning, right? Like you're still going around and everything's good. All right, good.
Yeah, we're in the future.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. We're just gonna hang out, chat. I'm super curious about you and how you got involved in artwork. I'm actually gonna flip around here and show some people some of your artwork. You've done some of the kind of most iconic, I think, Flesh and Blood art. You've got, Pedal to the Metal. You did Magnetic Shockwave. A lot of the metrics lore stuff kind of comes from you, which is super cool. And then of course Dash, great hero. What's your favorite piece that you've done?
That's tough. I think it's got to be either just Dash or Magnetic Shockwave.
Okay. Yeah. And do you feel like do you feel like a connection to the heroes of of Dash? Do you feel like you created?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it feels really weird to say because I mean the creation of Dash itself was very collaborative. Working with the people at the studio and the artists and stuff. And so it's not just purely my own creation, but taking it on, and I guess like every artist will interpret it their way too, and then seeing the community respond and stuff just feels really good. So I feel this kind of a little connection with it.
That's awesome. Well, I wanna start off by asking you how did you get started as an artist? Like back up way back, like tell us the whole story about you becoming. I assume that you love art because you were an artist. So like tell us how you fell in love with that.
Okay. So from the very beginning, like my dad is an artist. So he was, I guess, old school kind of like a graphic designer / illustrator. But that meant, no computers back then. So you kind of paint and watercolor and stuff, inks or that. And he loved collecting comic books. I don't know if he read them, but he loved just those because he's a bodybuilder too.
Cool.
It's kind of all the big muscly like Marvel, DC kind of things.
A bodybuilder artist. That's phenomenal.
I think actually lots of comic artists tend to be like lots of dudes and bodybuilders too. It's just I think it runs with seeing all this and drawing all these muscly men. But so that's what I had like access to as a kid, and some weird Japanese video game art books which had all these cool creatures and stuff.
Yeah.
So. I always copied the pictures and wanted him to draw copy them too. It was impressive as a kid to see someone or your dad redraw something. So I was always I guess immersed in that world. And so all throughout school and everything, I just kept doing art, being the art kid in the school. I remember I had a crush on my art teacher in primary school. So I was I want to be I want to impress her. I don't know. I remember a distinct moment, it just burned into my memory of I used to always copy these pictures, and one day my dad was really busy, and I came up to him with a drawing that I'd copied, and I guess he was really flustered or something, stressed from work, and he kind of he got upset. He was all you do is copy these pictures. None of these are original. This is not art or something. It's you got to draw your own stuff. But the way he said it, I can't, maybe it was niceness, but in my mind, it was a full on assault. So I was in my child mind, I'm going to show you. I'm going to kick your ass in drawing. And I just started doing so. I immediately did an original piece which looked really bad. And he was this is what drawing is. Looks really good. But I just remember that, built into my memory. And I think as a kid, seeing my dad draw, and like as a family, us praising how good it looks. While at the same time, my mom was always saying, "See, like look how hard it is to make a living being an artist. Don't be that."
Yeah.
As a kid, it's like you're giving me the recipe you're like almost forcing me to become an artist. You're saying this is cool, but you don't want to do it because it's hard. Just like I've got to, So
that's such a typical parent response too. Like, hey, you're doing really good job, kid, but no, you can't do what your dream is. You know what I mean? Like, you can't possibly make a living doing that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's like the recipe, I think, to make someone want to do something, huh? And then I just went for it. I mean, also because it became my thing. So as a kid, and I think all throughout my life, like because we moved around a lot to New Zealand, to Australia, and back to New Zealand, blah blah blah. I was always like wanting to be like accepted, and I make friends and stuff. And that was kind of my little thing I would go back to, like, oh, notice me because I can draw. So art kept being my thing in true heat. And then when I moved to Australia when I was 14, I went from Singapore to New Zealand and then to Australia. In Australia, I kind of lost sight of drawing. Like, the wanting to be accepted and find like your group thing became really heavy. Like I stopped high schools. I went to like 3 different high schools, and then the last one I was more of a like party kid, like hanging out, just like cafes every day, parties and stuff. And I lost sight of it. Then a buddy of mine who knew that I did all this drawing stuff back then, he was like, "I'm doing a portfolio course that's going to get me into uni. Join me," and so I did that too. And then when that ended up getting me into a 2D animation course, I majored in 2D animation.
Oh, really?
Seeing all these other artists again kind of like relit the spark, because I guess the competitive nature and stuff. When I saw like, there's these dudes who are amazing, I'm just like, I want to get there too. And then I found my like the art thing once again, and from there it's just been like I was 17 when I got into uni then, because I from moving a lot, I went up a few grades by accident, not because I'm smart, but so when I got into uni I was 17, and from that time to like now I've just always been doing art, like back into it.
That's awesome. So you have a major in 2D animation. So what is the difference between 2D animation and illustration?
Cool. So this was actually the big turning point for me, because when I got into the course, I thought that 2D animation, so stupidly, I thought that like because anime was really really big, like it was blowing up at that time, and I thought you'd just draw a few pictures and the computer would animate it for you to make everything move,
That's how it works.
And like, you got to draw like 25 to like 30 pictures per second, like I don't want to do this. And I think that's the big difference. I guess animation is you're focused so much on selling believable motion and action, while illustration is you're telling so much of a story just in a still image. And so I gravitate to that later on. Okay. And I guess you have to follow on with that. Towards the end of the course, I realized you can be a concept artist, which means you just draw like a few pictures, and someone else takes it and gets sent to 3D or 2D. Gotcha. So you're concepting. Yeah, and I guess I changed around.
Yeah, you were just like, I don't want to draw 30 pictures in the same second, so I'm gonna just move on to like being an illustrator. And so when did that change happen for you?
So that change started happening end of second year of uni. So I guess it's college over there. So of the course, and it's so weird because at that time it was still fairly new. When I said I want to be a custom artist for video games, that was like the thing I had in mind. Everyone's kind of like, I don't think that route is possible. Like, we don't know anything about what you should do, blah blah blah. It was just kind of new, and the information was out there, but it wasn't so readily available back then.
Just more people telling you that you can't do it, right?
maybe that. But so, I still remember though. Towards the end of uni, I was like, I had basically like. I had like lost all my friends. Like people stopped calling me anymore. I mean, they're still cool with me, but they knew me as the guy who won't come out. Sam has like disappeared now. And I just worked super hard. And at the end, I remember my teachers telling me like, don't worry, you'll be one of the people like who will definitely get work out of this, when you leave school. And then I didn't get work for like 2 years, and it was crushing. And I also swore I'm not going to do animation anymore. But the first jobs I got were all animation ones, because that's just the avenue I had,
Yeah.
And then I think in my heart, the goal is I've always liked illustration. Like I wanted to do like paintings and stuff. But it seemed like the route towards being able to do that was concept art, a more plausible thing getting work, doing stuff, doing illustrations. So eventually when I moved back to New Zealand for work, I was a concept artist and I jumped around and stuff, and finally got to do illustrations for Flesh and Blood. It was like the dream come true. It's like, full back to like now I can really do illustrations and, make a living off of it. So it's really cool. Yeah,
awesome.
That's the truth.
Awesome. We'll get into like the Flesh and Blood stuff. I'm a little curious too on now you've gone through uni and you were passionate, your parents, all that stuff. What's the dynamic now in your life where you have this idea of like creative expression, but in another way it's also like your monthly income and the way that you're a full-time artist. So like where's the balance there for you? And do you feel do you feel like you ever struggle with that, finding like joy in the work that you have to do, but also like it's your passion and it is what you love? How does that fit in your life?
That's a really good question. I think that's so many artists struggle with that because we discuss all the time, because you strive to you work so hard to become an artist because you have stuff you want to express, but then ultimately you're working for a company and you're creating someone else's idea. That was really the case for me when I first moved back to New Zealand, and I was at a company, mobile game studio called Gameloft, and people were good there. The people I work with, especially like on the ground level, were awesome. But we were making stuff that ultimately wasn't maybe our big passion. I worked on like My Little Pony, Littlest Pet Shop, all this kind of stuff, that was being moved to Ice Age to like mobile games. So many artists end up spending most of their time after work, working down stuff, personal portfolio. And I think that kind of thing has become closer for me now that I've started working with I guess the studio and also doing illustrations for them, like both things, where the illustrations and stuff, they're closer to what I want to do. And so it really is like merging of things I want to paint and draw with work itself. So it's become like that, yeah. But for a long time, I was doing stuff at home. Yeah, right. It's your personal work.
Right. So for a long time, it was like after work, you would try to like find your passion, and then during the work hours, it was just like grinding, and that makes sense. So before we get into Flesh and Blood, did you have any other previous trading card game background? Was there ever like, did you grow up playing games? I mean, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. So this matches up with some of the story I told before. So I collected cards from a kid, I guess. Also, like my dad had the superhero comic books, blah blah blah, and I had all these. I don't even know the Marvel like superhero cards back then, and I just like
like the Topps ones, or like they're just like collectible cards.
I think they were collectible. They weren't playing ones. But I just had them, and I knew nothing about them, so I'd have them as a kid. And I had like old Magic the Gathering cards as well, which I didn't know how to play as a kid. And then when I moved to New Zealand, like I was like nerding out hard. Like all my friends, it was just Pokemon, and we'd all hang out at like the what seemed like to us. I'm sure there were more, but like in my mind, like was our world, like the one local game store that we'd all go to. And so Pokemon's really big for me, like from around age 11-ish and a bit further. And to tie it back to the art stuff, I was drawing some Marvel stuff. I started slowing down. Dragon Ball Z was becoming popular too, I think. But then there was a dude at the local game store who had a folder. He was an artist, he had a folder of like anime girls, like just pencil drawings. And every time he pulled it out, everyone at the store would just like crowd up and be like, "Oh, Derek's, bring out his book," And it was like it's like a little celebrity in the the little community with this artwork. And I was like, as a kid, like 11, 12 years old, I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" Girls, drawings of girls, and then I started like wanting to shift over and trying to do that too. So it shifted me from like Marvel superhero like characters to like anime stuff, And I remember seeing that like as a kid who really wanted to be accepted and stuff, seeing this person who was like got all this like love for his drawings. I was like, whoa, anime and all this stuff, and it kind of moved me into that, which I think eventually led into like the led into wanting to do 2D animation because of anime, and then I guess when I moved to Australia, like I lost all the card stuff. I didn't play anymore and stuff. And when I came back to New Zealand, working in the mobile game loft, we played Magic the Gathering and stuff.
Okay.
Casually, and we'd go in on and off, like get into it, like lose traction, get out and back in again. So that was my thing, and there was a big moment for me with Flesh and Blood where when all the Dash stuff was coming out, especially like when Dash was just first like announced. I had a buddy from back then, from when I was like 11, 12, my closest friend. He messaged me saying, "Hey, did you draw like this character? Are you doing all this stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me, like doing that." And later in the day, I still remember he sent me a message, which I have on my Instagram and everything. Like I screenshot it, I showed my wife all this stuff. Like it said, I'm gonna misquote it, but it said something like, "Younger us would have been so proud of you," And like I damn near teared up looking at it, Like I think I was, yeah. Every time I mention it, I'm teary-eyed because it just brought me back full circle. It's really nice. And then at the last Battle Hardened, yeah. Well, at the last Battle Hardened as well, I met a few people, and they were like, "Hey, you know Jono? He's our good buddy." So that's that buddy of mine. And then meeting them, and it's like all the feeling of community and nostalgia came back because like I'm in the roundabout where I met his friends who are still playing the game, like playing card games, and we all connected.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that, man. Like I love the idea of like, you're passionate about something, and now your name's known. People know. You've got that kind of. You're not in a small circle of a shop with people huddling around looking at a binder of your hand drawn pictures. You're like at a much bigger level where like people all around the world. I mean, James White just said recently in an interview, 200,000 players. I'm guessing almost every single one of those players has seen a Sam Yang card. Like that's phenomenal. Like that's such a cool accomplishment. Nice. And I love like the idea of like your younger self being proud of you. You know what I mean? Like that's, even for other people who aren't artists, like I hope all of us could look at ourselves now and be like, would my younger self be proud of me? You know what I mean? Like, I think about that often. And I think sometimes I'm like, man, no, like I gotta do something. Like I gotta go, make myself proud. Like make little Louie proud. You know what I mean? Like, so I love that. I love that story.
Yeah, I always still think that too. Yeah, I think many people have that. Like we all experience like imposter syndrome and stuff, or like we shoot, really high as a kid, and like you might look at yourself and go, like you might, yeah.
Too many adults stop dreaming, don't you think? Like, too many adults just settle for whatever the world has given them and stop dreaming. I'm curious about that a little bit. Like, what would you? I know people are probably here for LSS stuff, but whatever. Like, what would you give advice for somebody who is pursuing a dream? Like when I kind of hear your story, like I hear somebody who like had a goal, had a lot of things not work out, right? You had some good stuff. Your parents were encouraging, and your dad was an artist, so you've got some natural talents. So you had to work hard too, but you've got some natural talents. But then you go to school, you kind of have a setback. You didn't do exactly what you wanted, but you grind through and you move back and forth. Like, talk to us a little bit about pursuing your dreams and taking risk. You're a professional artist. That's a risky career. What do you think about that? What advice would you give somebody who has some dreams?
I think I should say first that I was very privileged, like having these resources, and even being able to do art, having my parents not try to turn me away from it, but still support me in the end, let me go to college, all this stuff. So I think at the end of the day, I must say that I got really lucky still, that luck, that grinding help, I got lucky too. But yeah, I wonder if everyone who kind of is doing what they like kind of says the same thing as well, like they feel lucky because things kind of fall into place. I think when you're working really hard and when you're just putting yourself out there and doing those things, it's funny how all these little things you do end up adding up. It's like lots of artists tell people starting out to join meetups and stuff, to do live drawing, to meet other people, because you don't think it, but eventually all these little people you meet here and there that give you advice here, little bits of advice here and there, they end up adding up to making you this full artist, where if you were on your own or something and we're trying to reinvent the wheel basically, just on by yourself, it could be really tough and like really really slow, all that stuff. Maybe you lose like the passion to keep going. But I guess that after prefacing that, I think I just found my passion. Like, I feel like this is one thing to like want to do something, but I was able to like geek out, and I think that's just the number one rule. Like, I always remember back to the first class with the teacher that I hated, and ended up being one of the people I worked with later, like being close with them, because I was a brat when I first joined. He had all these slides of like little words just on the screen of like it was like preachy kind of thing, but I think from a good place, like, don't do this, be this way, blah blah blah, ways to think and act. And one of them said like something like don't be cool, and he explained it a little bit, and it just resonated with him, because I was at that time trying so hard to be cool, like I wanted to appear a certain way, to I was so focused and caring about my image or whatever, that I wasn't able to fully geek out, and I think lots of artists, at least for the art kind of area, I know I'm getting really specific to artists, but like I think lots of them know they want to be an artist, but they don't really consider enough like what they want to actually do as an artist, and so you end up being this very general, scattershot kind of artist whose artwork reflects the front page of whatever popular art site there is, as it updates every day. So I think nerding out is like finding the way to be passionate and just nerding out is I think it's the recipe to becoming good.
Not worrying about what other people say or think or do, and their criticisms, and to maybe taking criticism's great and take it to heart and consider it, but like not letting criticism stop you from growing. I think a lot of people take criticism as like you failed, and you can take criticism and say, no, like I have the tools now to succeed. And so cool, man. I think that's awesome. That's good advice. All right, so let's talk about LSS. Let's talk about Flesh and Blood. Cool. You graduate school, you move back to New Zealand, so what's your work like with Flesh and Blood, with LSS? Are you like, help us understand a little bit. Are you contracted on a card by card basis? Are you a quote unquote staff member at LSS? Are you how does that work in terms of like, is your employer LSS, or how does that work?
So it's actually a mixture of both. I think it's about almost 3 months or a bit more now that I officially joined the studio. So in the studio, I'm a concept artist there. So I'm doing like that, what I kind of have been doing, where I guess I help in building the world, ideating and stuff, exploring the characters, whatever things happen in the lore, and then I participate. Like, I guess I have a hand in giving feedback to artists as well. We discuss like the different artwork and all that kind of thing. So I guess if I was to describe the work in studio, it's like it's highly like fluid and collaborative. Also, I guess being fairly new, that sort of finding my place and where I'm best suited and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so in the studio, concept artists, but within that too, there's illustration work and all that kind of stuff, and then the card stuff I'm doing outside of that, so as a contractor still. But that's where it can merge a bit, because I don't know what will happen in the future if I do some of it in studio, or if I keep doing it separately as a contractor. But so I'm keeping that afloat. And I guess back to what you're saying too, I've got to learn to be able to balance that out as well, because I like my goal this year was actually to draw less. I keep just feel like I got to draw all the time, so I'm always just drawing in every day after work, no matter what, even if there's nothing on, I'm just drawing. But I want to slow down, and so maybe just live life a bit more and try to find that balance. So I'm just tinkering with it still. That's cool. That's what I do. So you so then one of my other questions was going to be, what other projects do you do professionally? This is it then. Like, I assume like professionally that's about as much time as you have between like basically helping manage a lot of the LSS stuff and then doing artists. Like, you don't have many other projects right now, or no? Is that wrong? No projects. So I've almost like basically now every time if there's any inquiry about like projects or even down to commissions, I'm just generally saying no. Commissions, I keep the door kind of open, because so far it's all been like community people, which is really nice, and maybe if this time in the future. But and going back to that thing you mentioned, like I think every artist has a story or their own IP they want to work on too. So like eventually I want to. I've always tried to work on a little my own little world, and so try to build it up maybe. But when I have time and when I slow down, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I see a Flesh and Blood playmat in the background. I assume the answer to this next one is yes, you play Flesh and Blood. When was your first, when was it that you turned from artist for Flesh and Blood to artist and I now play Flesh and Blood? When did you start picking up the game?
When did I first start playing? I don't know. I started hitting up some of the game stores here just to try it out. And so before joining the studio LSS, I was teaching. So I had gone over, started teaching at what I believe is the best media design, media art school in New Zealand. Was coincidentally called Media Design School. But so I was there teaching for almost 5 years, and so my students and I'm teaching it's concept art kind of stuff for video games, illustration, or that kind of thing. So, but my students, some of them played the game, and so it became this thing of we'll go together, and I want to learn the game as well, and that's when I started meeting community and all that. But I think that all happened. I'd like to say it's around Crucible.
Okay.
Yeah, I think because I was always lurking on all different Discords and stuff on Facebook, but then around Crucible for me it really blew up where I started feeling wow, this is really things are going crazy, and so I started going to stores and meeting people and stuff. I think it was then, and they're really nice, the different people teaching me how to play the game and stuff. But so that's when I started, and I'm a terrible player. I don't play enough. I played it.
I'm too, man. No worries.
Yeah. Well, you're going to be playing soon, right? Against
I'm gonna be getting my butt kicked soon, is what I'm gonna do, and that's totally fine. And that's what I love about Flesh and Blood. There is a huge competitive scene, and that's obviously I know LSS's big push and big goal and whatever, but the game is just it's fun to lose. The game is fun to lose, and that's what drew me to it, because I lose in trading card games. So if I'm gonna do it, I might as well have fun. And I love that. All right, so this is going to be a little bit of a you might not be able to answer this one, because I know that this is a really prodding question and very very secretive. But what on earth is the scenario in which you guys decide to put a piece of artwork on the neoprene playmats? Because who makes that decision, and how do we get them to make all of the playmats artwork?
I guess my answer will be I don't know. Yeah,
I like it. Yeah, so okay, you've mentioned a couple of times, that was just a joke question, I had to you've mentioned a few times that you work on artwork, and you're also kind of navigating some of the lore things. I know you can't get into any spicy spoilers or details or whatever, that's fine, but what have we missed as a community? What in the lore of Flesh and Blood have we just not quite grasped a hold of? What do you wish that people were considering more, or talking more about, or theorizing more on? Give us something there on what's something we missed as a community.
I feel so bad saying this, but I don't know. It's not this is not me dodging the question. I really don't know. I feel because even though I'm doing so much art for it and stuff, I still feel like there's so much I have to learn about the world itself too. And so I don't know, I feel like everyone does a really great job of actually exploring these things. So yeah.
That's all right. Well, how about let's transition that. What is your favorite style of the lore? What resonates with you in the lore of Flesh and Blood? What do you like to when not when you're creating for the company or whatever, but when you go to sleep at night and think about Flesh and Blood, as we all do, what is it that what about the lore really stands out to you?
It's really hard for me to take the head off of I'm thinking it from a very, I guess, an art standpoint, but I just think it's yeah, from an artist standpoint, the world is such a way that it's open to so many, like I guess, genres and cultures and many things, that it's just like a playground for me as an artist. Like, like I love the metrics kind of thing, like that exists in the way it exists, but then you look over to the side and there's like I guess this your like classic warriors, and there's like ninjas and all kinds of stuff. It's just all these different avenues, and I think what's interesting is seeing the world kind of like come together, because I feel like they're quite different, and like in it's like has all these different, like I guess, genres here, which is I think really cool.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Like, I love the idea that, like, in some ways it feels like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign where LSS is the DM, and like we are all just here along for the ride, and we don't know what's going to happen, and like you guys are able to paint and create. You guys have set up the game so well to have so many more options in the future. Like, we see it now, but it's like we're on the first couple pages, and like the depth of the lore I think is really phenomenal. You got the lore book and all that stuff, which is great, but like for me, like if you look at the art, you see all this stuff, right? You see these big huge creatures that we've never really seen, right? That we never really have understood. And like I know you don't have to tell us, because I already know that's what PvE is going to be, but we see all this stuff, and it's really cool because you kind of have a blinded eye. You're about to tell us what's in the bauble. We know that the bauble keeps opening. We know that the bauble keeps opening, and that something is inside that. And you drew the bauble, so I presume that you can tell us exactly what's inside of it.
I don't know.
I love that. You know what my favorite part about that is? It took the community. This is what I was saying about like missing out on things. It took the community way too long to realize that the bauble was getting bigger. It was like 2 weeks into Monarch. Like, Monarch set had been out for 2 weeks, and everybody was like, "Louis, did you see that the bauble is cracked?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And like they sent me the Monarch card, and I was like, how did we miss this? Like, how did we absolutely never like see that? I love it.
That was so great. I was like constantly looking for those posts. It was really great.
Oh my gosh. Did you like screenshot it and send it to James White and be like, they finally got it?
No, those guys are like way more ahead of me. They're like, they put it when stuff gets posted, they just see it immediately. But it was great.
That's awesome. I love it, man. That's I can imagine the stories that you're able to tell in the next couple of years will be phenomenal. And I think I speak on behalf of everyone in the community. We appreciate all the time, the hard work that's going into the world building. I know everyone talks about Flesh and Blood and how it's the greatest TCG ever, and the gameplay is so good and it's so balanced and whatever. But like the lore building, the world, it's just such a fun place to play a game in, and all that stuff is so important.
And so I can't take credit for that being like new in the team, but like those guys have really, they really put like blood, sweat, and tears into it. The passion is like so strong in the whole studio. It's really nice.
I mean, maybe let's dig into that a little bit. Who, if you had to put, I think we put James White as the founder and the creator and the game designer. We put a name to that. Is it Robbie? Is Robbie the is that the world builder and the founder of the world? I mean, how does that work?
I think it's maybe I can't. It's maybe it's bad for me to say it's just one person, because it's all, I guess it's collaboration and stuff, but Robbie really does
great. That's the answer. That's fine.
Okay, cool. But I mean, to give Robbie credit too, Robbie like leads the art team and stuff, and so he's responsible for so much, and really just like James, like these guys like do so much work, like they really dedicate like their life to this stuff, and it comes through.
Definitely comes through in the way that you guys execute things. If there was one story that you feel like LSS, the team, and I know you don't speak on behalf of them, but on behalf of Sam Yang, if there was one story that you feel that Flesh and Blood is trying to tell within the art, within the lore, within the heart and soul of the game, We know it's, to get together, people together in the flesh and blood to play games, but like there's one story. What does that story feel like, or what does that story look like? What's the emotions and the things that story brings out?
Cool. Okay. So speaking as an artist, as an artist and not for the studio. So this might be more a biased kind of, my personal thought on this is, I think at least when we talk about the art, it's really like trying to, I guess, present a deeper narrative. And like I used to talk about this a lot with program leader, where I taught, because we taught a few papers together. One of them was on we would go over art history a little bit, and one thing that we always discussed was lots of artwork nowadays, it feels like a pop in a sense, in that the first impression, the first read is the most important thing, where it jumps at you, the colors and everything are really strong, it's really intense, and then people don't spend too long looking at a piece of picture because there's just so much saturation, and it's often made for all these artworks are now made for this goal of maybe selling a game or advertising something or whatever, and so it's very punchy, and might not have lots of additional reads after the first one. And so that's what we kind of always discuss as something that has been lost a little bit, where if you look at old artworks, old master paintings and stuff, they often have so many reads, and I always talk back to like just Leonardo's like Last Supper. You have all the little things where you have the characters, I don't know different people in there, so what by name, but you have like the person holding the finger up, that symbolizes what will happen later in the story. With Christ, you have that Judas has like what seems to be milk when everyone else has wine, the blood of Christ on their table. All these little things that if you can stand at a piece in front of a painting and like stare at it for a long time and pick up all these little details, like additional story elements and stuff, secondaries, all this deep narrative. And I think, at least from a very personal perspective, I feel like that's what our cards can and are beginning to show. Lots of deeper connections to lore and like lots of little details, secondary, so you can spend longer looking at something and trying to figure stuff out, which I think people do, which is so cool, and it feels like this is what I think cards should do, because different from just like regular illustrations, people collect these cards, and so the artwork there can be stuff that people spend time looking at, and I think it's something that we need to revive, that people do have a sense of spending more time to look at a piece of artwork because it has something to tell as well. Sorry, that went really
that's fantastic, man. I love that, and it's so evident too. Like it's like, I love the idea that you said, like it's not about the first look, it's about the looks after, right? Like that's why every time I'm opening packs, right? Like people hate box opening videos, but like I love opening packs. You're opening packs and I find a card, I'm like, I've seen that card a million times and I didn't notice this guy in the background who is doing this or that, and I didn't notice it's that attention to detail that makes it so much fun for people to collect. And that's one of the core desires of your guys' team, is to make the game, make collecting fun. The gameplay is great, the gameplay is fun, but like also make collecting fun, make opening packs fun, make it enjoyable, and you guys are doing a phenomenal job at that. Well, man, keep up the good work. I'm sure I didn't want to ask you anything about Tails, because I'm sure we've already seen some of the photos and it sounds like it's amazing. Maybe we can have you on again after some of the Tails stuff spoils, and we can chat again more specific about that once we figure out how much more the bobble has opened, and we can hang out and chat about that. But is there anything you want to leave people with? I mean, if you want to leave somebody with something from Tails, you can, or whatever, anything else you want the viewers to hear.
Maybe I do want to talk about, like, for other artists some things, but I did want to ask you a question too. I guess related to the art, because I feel like I should be asking more people this, and I never do. What do you want to see come out of the art moving forward? Someone who plays and collects and stuff.
So, can I have two things? Is that allowed? Okay. Yeah. So as a content creator, there was a time, like I kind of always, I'm gonna go back to PvE, and I usually go back to PvE as a joke, but this time it's serious. I always knew PvE was going to be a thing, and there was a time in Monarch where I realized that you guys had started including more bigger creatures. It wasn't just two people fighting each other. It wasn't just a sword. It was a bigger story than what we had seen. We had seen the 12 heroes. We had seen the whatever, but now we were seeing the things that they were fighting. And what I loved about that is that I feel like you guys do this, correct me if I'm wrong, but you put hints in the artwork for things that are to come. And like, I, as a content creator, I eat that up. And I mean, it's selfish. It gives me content. So that's A. But B, I mean, that it goes to a collector too, of like, it's awesome. Like, it's fun to look at something and theorize what it could be. And it's fun to look at something 1,000 times and not see something until the 1,000th time. Like, that's a lot of fun. So I love the idea of like hinting at things in the future. Obviously you guys are super tasteful in the way you do it. Like, it took us 2 weeks to realize that the bauble was opening. Like, you're very, like, your guys' ability to do that is phenomenal. Like, I'm not saying do a bunch of it, like the way I just continue doing it. Like, it's fun to look at that. It makes every time that you post it makes every time that you guys post something on your article really fun, because you're like, oh my gosh, I want to look at every detail of the artwork. When Lexi was spoiled, and I don't know if it was supposed to be spoiled or not, but when Lexi got spoiled, it was, oh my gosh, is this frost or is this lightning or is this, what are we dealing with? And like, it was just a lot of fun. So that stuff's really fun. As a collector, the way that the cold foils and the spot foiling, I don't know what, I guess that's another great, maybe we could go into that a little bit. The way that you guys make the spot foiling and the cold foiling and make things stand out as a collector is, I mean, there's nothing better than that. There's nothing worse. I'm trying to not harp on other card games as much anymore. There's nothing worse than opening a $75,000 box of Magic the Gathering collector boosters and opening those 12 cards and they're all foiled. And it's just like, there's nothing special about the foiling. There's no time, no energy went into it. I love that. I would love to see more of that. All right, that was 2. Now my third one. This is probably more like as an artwork, as an illustration. I would love to see the ability to. I kind of already got into it, but like to see things that aren't seen. So, like things in the background that are just like this tiny little dot, this tiny little ad. Like, I love that stuff. Like, that's for me. I don't know. I'm not like an artist. I'm not. My grandfather was an artist. I didn't get that bone. I got the competition bone from him, but not the artist bone. So
that's really cool. That's really cool. Like, especially that second one. Oh, sorry.
No, go. No, I wasn't gonna say that.
The second one you mentioned about the foiling. I think the guys this year would be really glad to hear that, just because, like, now joining and seeing, like, what happens in the background. It's totally an art, like, that goes into these foils. Like, it's the guys the people work on. It's crazy. Like, it's amazing. Like, the level of detail and like care. And I think, so we hear people talk about that, and it's really nice because I think it totally comes through. Like, before, like, fab stuff, I hated foils. Like, getting a foil to me was like, the artwork's ruined, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's incredible. Yeah, I like it, the way he thought.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, like,
it's really cool to hear.
The way that Halo of Illumination, I think, I'm not trying to dig on the other artists. I love all the art, but I think Halo of Illumination is one of the most beautiful pieces of artwork in the whole set. And the way that the cold foils make you can just, it's just so good. Like, I'm sure your artwork was great, but that in cold foil is just so good. It's just it makes it 3D. It's almost like you're putting on 3D glasses. Honestly, it reminds me of like when I was a kid, you put on 3D glasses and you go into the movie and the artwork comes out at you. Now as an adult, like, I'm holding this card and the artwork comes out of me, and it's the same feeling. It's it's almost like that nostalgia of like, you feel like you can touch the Halo of Illumination. You feel like you can touch whatever the helmet is. Like, it's super cool. So
that's awesome to hear. Yeah, those guys do such a good job.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's another collaborative thing where you're like, hey, make sure like this part of it is visible in the artwork so that we can make it cold foil. Like, that's like all that.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think, and this is like I think just from an artist standpoint, like I previously done stuff for some other card games, but very, very loosely, and seeing like the way people. I think every place there's a fine line that the studio and the people have to thread of what they tell the artists to give them enough context, but what they also hold back so it doesn't ruin their interpretation, or or even like just give away too much. But that's the interesting thing where like that kind of discussion. For the first time, what's actually happening about like foiling, like some discussions about it, which is cool.
Yeah,
that's
cool. Awesome. I like it. Cool. Anything else to tell the people?
No, I don't think that's too much. I guess for artists out there, like people wanting to maybe go into illustration, I have like maybe the most important thing I can say besides nerding and being passionate is like or the extension that is finding your lane. Like be passionate and nerdy about. Pick like maybe a topic, a genre, or subject matter that you're really into, just because that's going to help you progress quicker. Probably stay in the game because you'll see results quicker too. You're not just getting strong very slowly across the board, but also it might help you get work that's tailored to what you actually want to do. I say that because I've always been someone who's jumped around styles and subject matter a lot, and it's in retrospect. Every time I did that, it's kind of harmed me a little bit. It's taking you away from what you really want to do and then getting work in that area. Yeah, that's my advice.
That's good advice.
Anyone doing that stuff.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate you. Thank you, and extend this thank you to the whole team for putting the time and the energy into making this not just a game, but a hobby. Not just a hobby, but a collectible. Not just a collectible, but something that people can really find joy in. The idea that we can find joy in these little silly, 3x5 rectangles. I don't know what they are, 2x3 or whatever. These stupid little cardboard rectangles. It's amazing. It's amazing that somebody right now has listened to this conversation for 50 minutes, and the reason they listened is because of these little rectangles, and the amount of attention and detail that you guys put in really makes that worth it and fun. And so please extend my thank you to your whole team. I know you're saying it's a collaborative effort, but also I just want to say thank you to you because I can see your passion. I love passion, man. I think if you can be passionate about something, you can change the world. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate your passion, and make sure you tell James White that you deserve a raise. That Louis said that Sam Yang deserves a raise because he's working hard and he's passionate. So
that's really nice. Thank you, and thanks for having me on too. Also shout out to our buddy Daniel for helping us set this up. I like as an artist too. Just thank you to the community and thank you to the studio as well, because like you said, like having like drawings like that normally not like if I just drew a random picture here and there, like it's just on its singular, and like maybe people might not care so much about it, but being attached to this world and like people collecting it, and then like having to get a chance to chat with people like you in the community because of it, it's amazing. Like so thank you everyone too, and you for going into this.
I'm honored to be able to host this conversation, my friend. So hopefully we get to do it again. I don't want to make you say yes on the show, but at some point, hopefully maybe after Aria, we could come back and do a little conversation once you're allowed to reveal something we missed or something. We could have a little fun. And looking forward to it. I'm sure you guys have worked super hard on it, and you're now starting to work on whatever the next set is in Volcor. And that we will see you guys working hard, and I appreciate you. And to the rest of you guys, remember to be kind to the people around you, and remember that the team at LSS is putting their heart, soul, love, passion, and energy into creating awesome content for you guys. Okay, I guess we'll do it later. Never mind.
Okay.
I did have one other answer. Never mind. We'll do it later. We'll save it for the next video. We already told people to be kind to the people around them. We'll leave them hanging.
Cool. I like it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
See you guys later.